It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 131 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel, have you seen Blade Runner Rowald?
Yes, have you? And all of the other related, assets. This is actually the third time that we've recorded this episode. And if it doesn't go well for me, I will reset it and we'll start over.
I thought this felt a little familiar.
Yeah. We may have to record this many more times.
Second, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom Sheep Guts Haggis.
Just so you know, if this episode goes over 50 minutes, we will all explode. Sheep Guts, that was great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This movie, both movies only had like maybe 2 lines to quote, so I had to think of my own.
Bullshit, you are so full of shit.
Third, writer, actor, director, Kyle. No, I'm not related to Larry. Fine.
Sorry, I don't know why that got me. There are 2 characters I want to point out. One that I identify very much with. That's Uncle Duncan. And then one man I wish was my dad, Bill Nighy. But the only thing he has in common with my dad is that he's dead.
Oh man. Whoa.
God.
Nice.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Start the episode again. I'm sad now.
Oh, sorry. I wish Bill Nighy was my dad. He's such a good dad.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Andrew Something Different Zumwalt.
Oh my God.
I'm not taking my panties off for Scotland.
That was the one quote that I had.
Again.
Oh, Zumwalt's done it once. I don't fall for the same shit twice.
Well, you know what they say, 5th time's a charm.
That's right.
All right, Kyle, I think you understood my reference in Andrew's nickname, yes?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Jesus Christ.
Poke the monkey, find out what we're talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, temporal tourists and leaping librarians, welcome to the main event. Tonight, 2 past and present pictures scour the time stream, searching for a win. Which of them will find their happy ending, and which will be stuck in the past? In the first quarter, from 2013, written and directed by Richard Curtis, starring Bill Nighy, Donald Gleason, and Rachel McAdams. About Time! In the second quarter, from 2009, Kingston, Eric Bana, and Rachel McAdams. The Time Traveler's Wife.
I have to say, I've never seen either one of these movies before this episode, and yeah, they were. One I really enjoyed. The other one I was meh. So can't wait.
What movies are we doing?
Yeah, I'm kind of worried Tom watched the wrong movies based on his opening line.
What the fuck? What movies were we supposed to watch?
About Time and The Time Traveler's Wife.
Oh, fuck, this will be fun. Okay.
I think Tom watched our next month's movie.
I think he did.
Or did you watch Dune and the Road? Or Mad Max.
Watch Speed because that's where you got the 50 miles an
Yeah,
hour. I
that's
wondered
hilarious.
what the hell we were
Yeah,
going
so did
with.
I.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Oh, no.
All right.
Is that next month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
no.
Yep.
Oh God!
Is
Did
that
you
what you
pull?
watched,
Did
Tom?
you pull a Ruhlwald?
Yeah, I've done it.
We're good.
Done
Let's.
it.
I.
Should
You
we
know.
do this
I
next
can.
Wednesday?
I am good. Let's do
I
this.
love it. I think.
Have
Tom
you
can
seen
think
those
on
other
his feet.
two?
I've seen of them.
Oh no! Oh no!
Hey, you know what? This is great. We're gonna expose something in this first round we're gonna really bring Tom into the fold.
Let's do it.
Oh
Right.
my god.
Let's
Do
start.
you want to go
off.
back in time and start over?
No wonder we've done this episode 4 times. Gabe.
Right, we have to do
Tom's never watched the right movie.
Oh my god, it's great.
Oh,
It's great.
All right,
It's so good.
First round, writing.
Well, Tom, this might come as a great shock to you, but these are time travel romance movies starring Rachel McAdams and a man not from America. That's how specific this matchup is. And I got to tell you, there's one of these movies that I think is really, really well written. And then there's another one of these movies that is a psychosexual horror thriller. Now, which one is which, might you ask? About Time is a lovely paced movie about finding the reason to live in the now and enjoying your life while you can, and using time travel to relive good and bad moments and get to experience all the different outcomes your life might have had. The Time Traveler's Wife is about Eric Bana being a 50-year-old pedophile who travels naked back in time to make a 6-year-old fall in love with him. I like one of these movies and not the other.
This is true. I don't think there's anything you can do to refute that. That this is very true.
Okay. I am not a huge fan of romantic comedies. They're just not my thing. I don't care if you like them. That's great. Like what you like. I don't like them. But there are some that are really well done. And then there are some, like The Time Traveler's Wife, where there comes a moment in the movie where you go, what? And then you kind of get a sick feeling in your stomach as you think of the ramifications of what's happening. Because as you go through the movie, you realize there is no reason for him to come back and meet a 6-year-old girl other than to coerce her into falling in love with him. There's literally no other reason for his time travel. And that's what I have to say about that movie.
Or an 18-year-old girl.
This is also true.
Yeah.
It's a Time Traveler's Wife may be a movie about the power of cult leaders and their ability to infect their masses. But if so, it's wrapped in a very disgusting package.
Wow.
All right, follow that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I know, right? That's terrible. I'm doing a terrible service.
No, I guess the bigger question is so they made a movie from a top-selling book, and I'm not saying I'm not citing either side yet, Kyle.
No, sorry, I tipped my hand.
But you know, this movie was actually made from a novel that was hugely successful.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
The book?
Yeah.
And I've never read the book.
Yeah. So
well, and I just wonder, how that material was portrayed. I've never read the book either, but I wonder how it was portrayed in the book versus the movie, and if it was difficult for the movie to portray that in a non-creepy way, because I thought the exact same thing almost instantaneously. I'm like, okay, not only is this guy traveling through time, but he has to do it naked for whatever reason. And he travels back to visit this young girl, and he's naked every time he shows up. Until she starts leaving her dad's clothes for him, which is also a little weird. I just wish I knew how it were portrayed in the book.
It's not weird. It's not weird in the book. I'll tell you in the book, it's portrayed in a way that's very much like he has no control over this, and I mean, he's just basically pulled back in time as these two kind of timelines crisscross and kind of interweave and cut back and forth across each other. And it's a little weird. And he's very sensitive to the whole, like, look, I know this is kind of weird, but this will all come together eventually for you.
And it's very obvious that it's not controllable in the movie as well. Like that part is definitely not left out.
Yeah. So, I mean, pedophiles typically like seek children out. I don't think involuntary time travelers can really be,
But
faulted
part of a crime is opportunity. He saw an opportunity to talk to a girl naked, and he didn't stay in the bushes. He said, "Hello, you're going to fall in love with me." That's kind of weird. I totally can buy.
Did give him a blanket.
Yes, what you're saying makes total sense to me, because in a book you have a lot more room to go into the nuance of this and soften a lot of these things that are pretty jarring in the film.
Yeah.
And get into an inner dialogue that you might not be able to do without being kind of pokey.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot.
Also, there are slight changes you could have made, such as him being the age he would have been whenever he time travels. That would have made it a lot less creepy. But the scene where he shows up in the bushes naked and starts talking to a girl about how he's going to fall in love with her when she gets old and stuff, it's really weird.
Well,
it's hard to get past it.
I probably wouldn't have opened with that.
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
Well, and in the next round we might get into the aspect of Eric Bana's performance and its impact on that.
Well, sure. Well. I also have, and this perhaps is not in the book, but I know in the movie this always bothered me, the fact that he gets a vasectomy and then she goes and has sex with him in an early version of him so she can still get pregnant. I felt that was really weird.
It's not like she cheated on him.
It's not like she cheated on, but it's kind of like, hey, going to the sperm bank and artificially inseminating yourself and not telling anybody, even though it's your husband's sperm, so it's okay. Like, it seems really weird.
Yeah. I mean, he went and got a vasectomy without telling her, so I guess maybe, she's within her rights to go
have sex with a younger version of
get knocked up by his previous self.
Gabe, I think that brings up a great point, which is that neither of these people are really very good people, or people you really want to root for.
Right.
They're hard
maybe,
to
maybe they're paving the road to hell with good intentions. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe they're good people trying to do good things and not really fully understanding the ramifications.
I also have always had a problem with his death, due to the fact that he knew the death was coming, and he gets into situations where I would say he takes a lot of stuff for granted. As soon as he time travels, he's just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm fine. He knows it's coming. So as me, I would take extra precautions every time I knew I traveled, right? So that always felt very odd to me on his death. But
yeah, and I meant to go back to that scene where he wakes up near a deer or an elk or whatever it was.
It's a deer.
And who is her dad with? There are two people, and it was her dad, right?
It's her dad, but I thought it was just like a friend or something. Because I didn't.
I think it would have been more interesting because his dad. And I meant to go back and look to see who it was because I didn't catch it the first time.
Are you saying you think it was Henry?
Well, I think it would have been more interesting and more poignant if it had been him. If he had been there at the moment he had been shot and he was there at the moment of his own death.
Sure.
Of course, he was already there for the moment of his own death, but you know what I mean.
Well,
yeah.
Like he was there when it was caused.
Sure.
But I don't know. Does anybody know?
I don't.
I meant to go back and watch that scene again to see if I could tell who it was. I just think it would have been more interesting if it was this kind of whole, time travel loop conundrum type thing. He's there at the moment he gets shot, but he doesn't know it until he gets shot later. I don't know.
And thus opens up one of the great problems of time travel movies. What does a different version of
And unfortunately,
times.
I think we're spending a lot of time on the movie that is not as well written. We haven't really said much about time.
And I take total blame for that, for coming out like a house on fire.
Maybe that makes
such
sense.
such a weird premise. But I just was really taken aback by the strange presentation of the movie. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Where something that kind of jarring to the senses happens and is never explained. It makes a lot more sense that it's much more fleshed out in the books, but they really should have brought some of that forward into this story to avoid stuff like the reactions. It sounds like we had at different points of feeling that things were weird and creepy and just awkward.
It's Claire's brother with Claire's dad that are hunting.
Oh, okay.
In the book, her brother shoots him. In the movie, it's her dad, which I think is a weird change.
Yeah, why would they change that? But I still think because there was that moment where they meet each other, and he says, "I ought to take you hunting."
Yeah,
and I thought that would have been
immediately.
Yeah,
it's a good lead.
I think that would have been a great way to close that. Is he actually takes him hunting and ends up shooting Henry.
Yeah.
Henry goes hunting and essentially shoots himself. Maybe that would have even been more interesting if it wasn't the dad, but if it was Henry who took the shot and actually shot himself.
But that would have destroyed Henry's character that we had known up to that point, because Henry was very passive and kind and
was clearly he would have interested in hunting.
Correct.
But that would have made it more.
It would have. I'm not taking the idea away. At all. Yeah.
But I think that would have improved maybe the kind of the concept a little bit.
No.
But I don't know. It's just a thought. And what we'll get into. I just don't know what categories to put this in. I have some questions about time and when he travels. And his dad encourages him to live a day and then go back and then relive it and perceive it differently. But I have questions. I don't know if this is the right category for it. I have questions about what that means for his, things like his age and that kind of thing. Does he not age? If he goes back a day, is he all of a sudden when he comes back to the present, is he a day older than he was before, or is he the same age? And would he have aged faster if he had gone back in time a lot? I don't know.
I think we need to focus less on the science of time travel and more on
lack thereof.
I actually think there's a really interesting case to be made about the time travel and about time in the acting category. And that the acting helps it feel less jarring.
Yes,
but we can get to that when we get.
I guess I feel that that's also part of the writing and the way that it's a nonch for this group of men in this family. It's kind of just this nonchalant, almost ritual that they get to experience for the first time And then it's just kind of like, it's something we can do. We can now drink beer. You can now time travel. It's cool. It's no big deal. And, even the one moment at his wedding when his dad is like him and talking, and his dad's like, I don't think it was very, very good speech. He's like, no, you did great. I loved it. And I didn't tell you I loved you. And he's like, you don't have to do this, Dad. And he's like, I'll do whatever I want. And he gets up and just walks off and time travels to redo his speech. And that to me just has that writing moment of how it's just so nonchalant and so just this easy thing that's just accepted throughout the movie instead of it being a gimmick, instead of it being, the massive control. It's just this thing. And I think that's what I felt the writing of the story made this one simpler. And like I think Kyle said, it kind of made it seamless and less jarring. It was just a thing.
I'm wondering if Tom has any strong opinions about this. He's read the
I will
books.
tell you that the story from Time Traveler's Wife, when I started reading it, I wasn't sure how they would like make it into a movie, just because it was so complicated and there was so much kind of internal dialogue, and it really seemed more appropriate to be like a Netflix or HBO, like a limited series where they kind of expanded and draw it out a little bit more. So I'll be interested to see how they did it. I think we're out of time, though, aren't we? Yeah.
Can we come back? Can Tom come back and re-record his parts?
Yes.
We're good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would legitimately like to start this episode over because I feel like I've kind of ruined it by coming up with all that nonsense.
I think it's.
You think you ruined it, Kyle? You think you ruined
Yes,
it?
I'm absolutely taking the heat off of you.
I appreciate that.
Because I think I started this with such a strong opinion about something that there's really nowhere to go from there for me. If in later rounds I vote for this movie, it will seem weird.
Everybody was thinking it.
And I guess I wasn't trying to be a smartass when I said I'm interested in Tom's opinion. I only meant that because I know he read the book.
Yep.
This is by far the weirdest episode I've ever done. By far the weirdest.
I would go back
episode.
and fix that if I could, Tom.
No, that's okay. I have lots of insights in the next category. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Kyle, what's your vote?
Hold on. There's
Oh
a
my
dark
God.
cupboard
Okay.
over here.
Well, for anyone listening to this and any participants who feel slighted, I do apologize for my behavior in the early part of this podcast. I will move on with a more critical eye. That being said, I will pick the movie where Eric Bana isn't a kid diddler.
All right, Gabe.
I'm going to go with About Time.
All right, Tom.
I'm going to go with Time Traveler's Wife because I felt the story was a little more developed in the 3 chapters I read.
Andrew.
That's great.
Andrew. God.
Time travel. About time.
All right. Towards the end of the film, Rory is reading the book Trash, which is Richard Curtis's next film. Curtis wrote the screenplay for both Trash and About Time. Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt made headlines when they bought the film rights to Audrey Niffenegger's novel before it was released to the public. That's about it for trivia first.
God, that's got to be rare, right? You buy a movie before it's like you buy the rights to a book that's not released.
I thought it was
do that.
happening more around this time. I thought that there were a bunch of like, oh, we're going to buy the rights before anyone else gets it.
Because they did that for Ready Player 2 and then Project Hail Mary, Andy Weir's new latest book. They snatched up the rights for several million before it came out. So,
oh my God, I got to write one good book. Then I can write a second shitty book and still make money.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
Yeah, I think we've got some things to talk about in this category too, and they kind of relate to what we were talking about in the first category a little bit, I think. But first, I just want to say, is Rachel McAdams the most charming, the cutest?
Yes.
She is just.
Oh yes,
she is so likable on screen, like instantaneously. So I'll get that out of the way and try to be a little more.
For all you listeners out there, if I could explain to you exactly what Mike was doing right now, we would have to probably ban this episode.
It would have to be blurred for sure.
Jeez.
But I think one of the key things to me in this category with these two movies is chemistry. And I felt like I'm not going to say his name right. Domhnall Gleeson? How do you say his first name?
Yeah, pretty good.
Good job.
Is that it? Domhnall Gleeson?
Yeah.
And Rachel McAdams, I feel like they had chemistry in About Time. And when I saw him at first, he's a little bit, he's kind of nerdy a little bit. And I didn't feel like there would be that chemistry with them for some reason. But I really felt like they had it. And their relationship seemed very genuine. With Eric Bana and Rachel McAdams in The Time Traveler's Wife, I didn't feel that chemistry. I just didn't feel like there was the same connection between the two actors or characters or what. And I felt like, and maybe it was because of what Kyle was talking about, because it's a little bit, it was a little bit of a creepy chemistry, if there was any. And I felt like Eric Bana was a little flat. I didn't really feel like he was very convincing. He was kind of the same in every scene. And, I can imagine if you had this condition and you traveled involuntarily through time and, witnessed your mother dying hundreds of times or whatever he said, and that you would have a greater depth of emotion and character than what Eric Bana portrayed. And there were certain scenes where I felt like they kind of tried to portray that, like when he talked to Ron Livingston's character Gomez near the end, and said, "Hey, thanks for being a friend. Thanks for being such a good friend," and that kind of thing. You felt like they were trying to get to that emotional core, but they kind of short-circuited it, and you didn't really see much of an interaction or a change between those characters over time necessarily. And so I don't know. For me, it comes down to chemistry, and I felt like Domhnall Gleeson and Rachel McAdams really had it. Well, and then there's also the chemistry between, like what you said, Kyle, and I'll let someone else speak after this, between him and his dad, him and Bill Nye. There was chemistry there too. It felt like a genuine, father-son kind of relationship. And I felt like they accomplished that better in About Time.
Yeah, it felt very natural. I think you're absolutely right. And Eric Bana was oddly flat. I totally agree with that assessment.
No.
Yeah, which is crazy because he can act well. Like, he's done movies that he's good in. I loved Munich,
Munich's great, yeah.
But it's so weird because it seems so like he's phoning it in almost, like he's really not trying. And yeah, he's not showing any of the emotional complexity or the struggling with it that I'm expecting of a character like this. And one of the things that kind of threw me, and I mentioned this to Mike, I talked to him in between when we recorded, but Domhnall Gleeson's love interests in About Time are Margot Robbie and Rachel McAdams. And I'm like, first of all, he's the luckiest man in the world. Also, he doesn't act overwhelmed or anything like that, and he's so witty and charming. You can kind of believe that a guy like this might actually pull one of these girls, and could be in a relationship with one of them. His wit and his ability to connect with her were really showcased in the movie. And Bill Nye is, he's just a great actor, period. And he is such a good, believable dad and so good in that role. And I think their dynamic of the joking around, the being irreverent with each other, having a quirky family, all that stuff makes the idea of them being able to time travel much more palatable. Because it just seems like another funky, funny thing that this family can do. And they don't explain it, which I think is the best thing you can do in a situation like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of movies get hung up. And I think it's in About Time, not explaining it helps. And in A Time Traveler's Wife, not explaining hurts the movie. Because it just appears odd, like they forgot to mention the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, I give credit to Rachel McAdams. I know for a fact that when she was in high school, she was like a bitch. She was like a mean girl. And the fact that Domhnall Gleeson, I mean, he's so charming in this, but then he goes on, he runs the First Order. He rises very quickly. So, but the part where his dad becomes Davy Jones is
terrifying. Was terrifying.
It's terrifying. And
what a
I hope they do a movie between this and Suicide Squad so we can figure out exactly, where Harley Quinn came from. But
oh my god, yes.
But with Eric Bana, I mean, how does he balance his love life with being the Hulk? I don't know. There were questions. I had questions. That's what I have. The movie left more questions than answers with me.
This is my favorite timeline version of Tom, where he thinks every movie is connected.
Yes.
It's just a man I want to know.
This is the best life right here.
Oh my god, so great.
Which is great because both of these things happen to Rachel McAdams. She just draws herself to people who travel through time. Doctor Strange.
Oh my gosh.
I believe that Domhnall Gleeson is, I would say, is very charming and the witty and all of those things. And it's just, he has a charisma to him. And it's not just the character. I think as a person, he just has this natural charisma to him. He just seems so natural in this movie. And in fact, pretty much everybody we've mentioned, Rachel McAdams and Bill Nighy, even the sister, the quirky sister that you have, like it just felt natural. Like they were just having a good time and telling a story, and it came across like it was no problem. And I think that's what sticks with About Time. Even who is it? Is it Tom Hollander? Tom Hollander, right? Yeah, Tom Hollander. Harry. The quirky playwright that's a psychopath almost. Just some of his dry sarcasm. He cracks me up. He takes him up to the room and he's like, "This is where you're going to be sleeping. Try to be quiet, especially while having sex." And he answers with, "There's no chance of that." And he's like, "Great, 2 losers in the house." And he's like, there's my daughter. Have sex with her if we like. Everyone else has." And then leaves the room. I mean, yeah. That whole, even just that, I mean, it's just, it's just so well, they portrayed characters that really just fit them, it felt like. I guess I looked at Eric Bana's performance. He was upstaged by Ron Livingston, and that's saying something. I mean, Ron Livingston, he's not a bad actor in any way, shape, or form, but he did I enjoyed his character better than I liked Eric Bana's. Eric Bana's was just kind of daft, I guess.
Be kind to Ron. He's from Cedar Rapids.
I know. He's not a bad actor. I'm just saying that he stole the show comparatively to the way Eric did, and I don't know why. He was just kind of dry, always calm, just Hey, little girl, what's up? It was just awkward. I don't know.
He had no range. He was just really flat.
And maybe that's
he was always the same.
Yes. And I don't know if that was intentional or if he just didn't give a shit about the movie, or I don't know. It felt, and even them, Rachel McAdams and Eric being together just seemed weird. Like it just didn't, she had all this passion and stuff for him, and then she would hate him, which this would be very frustrating mentally and physically. I get it, but it just seemed like it was like, I don't know. I didn't feel it in the same way, I guess. Yeah, it was. But I mean, there are some really, really good top actors in About Time. So I don't know who they paid or got to do their casting, but damn, they did a great job. They really did.
Well, and Domhnall Gleeson is Brendan Gleeson's son. So if you want to come from, growing up studying a great actor, that's a great place to learn your trade.
And it says his dad was Mad-Eye Moody. That's incredible.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was in Bruges too that one time. You remember that was crazy.
Oh yeah, he was in Bruges. In Bruges.
So it says his name is pronounced like tonal, but with a D. Donal.
Like Donal Gleeson?
Donal, because he's Irish.
Okay. Jackie Gleason's actually his grandfather.
Wow. The apple has fallen far from the tree.
So, and you can really see the arthritis in Bill Nighy in this movie. Holy buckets.
I didn't notice it at first, but there were certain scenes near the end, yeah.
Well, when he first starts talking to him, he always has his left hand in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I didn't notice it until Tim leaves for college, and his sister Kit Kat gives him the finger, and that the dad waves, and Bill Nighy points with just his two fingers with his left hand.
All right, that's time.
So was that a thing that happened later in his career that he lost use of that hand?
It's both hands.
Oh no! That's terrible.
So if you notice in all the other scenes, he's holding like a glass or something in his right hand.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just he's such an amazing actor, and he does such amazing things. I love to see that it hasn't hindered those things, but.
You know what's weird about him to me?
Sorry, Mike.
Was
it's
that
time.
Trivia?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, I just wanted to say really quick, what's weird about him to me is that he comes across as he's so, gaunt and like slim and a little bit creepy. He comes across as a little bit creepy, but he's also somehow very charming in this movie.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
He's the dad that everyone... Well, I think Kyle took care of that at the beginning.
Yep. Yeah, you want a dad caring and loving, and yeah, that's great. He's a great on-screen dad.
All right.
Very funny and witty, and yeah.
Vote. Gabe.
Yeah, no question about time.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, Rachel McAdams does it for me. So,
yes, she does.
Time Traveler's Wife. Yeah, definitely. I just watched the trailers. I'm good.
Andrew.
Oh my God. About Time.
And Kyle.
Yeah, I vote for Rachel McAdams. So About Time.
Ooh, good. I'm glad I talked you into it.
Yes, thank you.
After filming was complete on The Time Traveler's Wife, Eric Bana started filming Star Trek, which required him to shave his head. However, reshoots for this movie were needed, so production was put on hold so Bana's hair could grow out. It took so long that the movie's release date was pushed back by nearly a year.
Oh my God, put him in a wig. The movie already sucks.
No shit. I just assumed he'd throw a wig on the dude.
About Time's cast includes 4 Oscar nominees: Rachel McAdams, Margot Robbie, Vanessa Kirby, and Richard E. Grant. All right.
I mean, that's an all-star cast.
It is.
I can't believe Bill Nighy was not nominated for his turn in the Underworld films. I think that's ridiculous.
You know what I can't wait for is the person that's starting off this third round directing.
I take it's Tom.
Yep,
By the
it's
silence?
Tom.
I didn't have my microphone on. I just had this whole beautiful interlude about the directing style of these two. I will say saccharine directors. How about that? They're not ones to take a lot of risks, and so I think the delicate hand that Robert Schwenke uses in Red, he is very evident here. Obviously, there's fewer guns, but and of course he directed Time Traveler's Wife. So there's a lot less shooting, a lot less violence. It's a much more of a pared down. He has a more delicate hand, and I would say more sardonic. Probably be the word I'd use. About Time, though, I'm very familiar with Richard Curtis's work. He did great work on Love Actually, and so we talked a little bit about that chemistry that Rachel McAdams and Donald, did I say that right? Donald Gleason has. And he has a really good hand at getting chemistry out of actors, and so you kind of wonders: does he attract really good actors that work well together, or is it more he just has a way of getting them to work really well once they're on set? But I don't know. It's hard to say because Rachel Adams has great chemistry with everybody. So if anybody wants to bail me out, that would be totally fucking awesome.
I would say, and I don't know if this is a director or a writing choice, but the way they actually portrayed the time travel in About Time, I thought was very slick.
That's definitely directing. Yeah, that goes in this category that I started off. Yep. Why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about that?
Super simple, kind of fun, and like I said, lighthearted, and didn't seem gimmicky. It was just, again, a thing that was in the world. And in Time Traveler's Wife, they started off that way. They started off with just this thing that appeared, and it was this person, and then they would turn around and he would be gone. And they can kind of continue that, and then for whatever reason, somebody got a hold of After Effects and decided, hey, we could make him dissolve away real slowly, and it would be and it looks really cheesy. Like, I'm not sure why they went from this kind of mysterious. I mean, they even did a really cool. There was one time he travels in the bathroom, he's shaving, and the camera follows him as he falls over, and then he completely falls, and as he falls, that's the transition to the new world that he's in. And I was like, oh, that's actually a really cool transition. They did a really nice job with that. And then they started mixing and adding this dissolve thing, and I don't know, there was just some weirdness to it that I felt that I didn't really enjoy that much.
Yeah.
As
the
a
only
director,
time that I thought it was kind of cool was when he dissolved away, but the heat from his hand left that print on the window.
On the window?
Yeah.
And
I thought that was kind of a cool idea, that he was actually there and disappeared, but there was still some sort of remnant of him in that.
Yep.
In that place. But anyway.
No, I mean, there's a lot of jumping around in Time Traveler's Wife, and there's a lot of things that you, even as a director, for those of us that have shot movies and you try to piece those scenes together, most of the time you're not shooting in order by scene, and there's really not a direct order that you could shoot in scene. And to be able to basically keep track of character A and say, he's old at this point, so when he comes back for the wedding, make sure that we gray him up. And then he's young again. And then now we move back over here and he's old, but now he's super young. So change his hair, like keeping all of that in scope to be able to shoot that effectively would be a really, really big challenge. And I hope they had a really good, like a script supervisor or a time traveling supervisor. I don't know what you call that person that can maintain that. Whereas
one of them has a time travel consultant
or a consultant, but in About Time, they're basically going to that spot and replacing the version of them in that time. And I thought that was a really clever way of handling it without making it too murky and complicated. And I mean, we can definitely discuss the problems of time travel, and I think they touch on it just a hair. But I thought that it was a clever way of handling it, and I felt the director did a cute little. There was when they would do it, you hear the, and you knew that it happened, and that was his scene transition, and I thought that was a really clever way of handling that situation. And I mean. Shit, the shots that they got out in England in the rural towns were just absolutely gorgeous. So 2 cheers for their director of photography, because he did a damn good job.
Yeah, I think they really didn't handle the different time periods in The Time Traveler's Wife very well. At least for Eric Bana's character, because he looked the same all the time to me. And then there was one scene, the wedding scene, where he disappears. He gets nervous and he disappears just before the wedding. And then an older version of himself appears. But they kind of have to point out, they have to have characters actually say it. Like, oh, he's got gray hair. Oh, my God, look at his hair. It's gray. To indicate that he's older. And I just didn't feel like they did a really good job of differentiating his look in different periods of time, because he always kind of looked the same. He did the thing where he got his hair cut because, Rachel McAdams liked it short or whatever. And so sometimes you could tell, well, his hair's a little shorter, so he's roughly this age, And then he kind of had a little bit of a mop head when he was a younger man or whatever, and then he kind of had a little bit of gray when he was older. But I had a hard time knowing at times like which version of him it was, because they didn't do a really good job of differentiating those. And I think they could have done something more dramatic to differentiate him in those different time periods. And I think the jumping around would have been less confusing. I mean, they're time travel movies, so we expect this kind of jumping around. We expect it to be nonlinear and kind of confusing at times. But I think there was a part of that. If they had made his character more different, it would have made it easier to understand for us.
Yeah, I think to your point that his dad, her dad, at the wedding, like looks at him like, wait, what? Like he's a different person. And I'm like, they put stripes of gray in the dude. Like maybe he did that up in the bathroom because he makes it look more distinguished. Like he didn't, I don't know. It was mostly his hair. That was the things that I noticed the most. That was the only way I could keep track of which Bana we were looking at.
And maybe like stubble.
Yeah. Because it was, I agree. It wasn't still, well done.
Part of the problem too is that, because he dies so young, you don't have a wide range of years to differentiate either. You know what I mean? Because he dies at 40 something or 50 something or whatever he gets shot.
Maybe he's one of those people that just doesn't age.
Well, Eric Bana's, a handsome dude and looks good at any age, I'm sure. But
there you go.
Yeah. I just felt like that was one downfall and probably a directorial choice for that to that kind of hurt.
Sure.
The understanding of the movie.
I really appreciated Richard Curtis's directorial choice of having Rachel McAdams take her bra off not once but 4 times in the movie.
I didn't count that. I didn't count that.
That's a great point, Andrew. I appreciate that.
And all I was going to say was I felt that they used a lot of the time travel for comedic value, but also for storytelling to push forward. I think Gabe had said that, it turned into this fun thing where he was like, he would make a stupid mistake or when her parents came to the door and he's like, yeah, I live here, but definitely not oral. There's no oral. And then he walks off and they repeat the scene. And I'm like, it's really clever. But then it turns into this appreciation for the here and now and what is going on and taking that moment in life to appreciate what is happening by live your day and then repeat it and look at all the little things. And I felt that was with the story and the way it was told made that be quite powerful in turning something that kind of like a young child, again, with the drinking analogy, I think is the best. You first get to drink and you get drunk every single night. And then you start to realize that you can have this appreciation for certain types of alcohol. And so then some people, but he started taking this power that he had. And instead of it just being this, thing that he could use and it was kind of fun, he actually turned it into something very powerful and meaningful for him as a person. So
I know later in the movie he mentions that he stopped traveling back in time, but he definitely didn't. You definitely go back for birthday anal days. You definitely go back for, really good blowjob days. Definitely you do that again.
Yeah, Jesus.
Well, and I think
endlessly,
and I think that was definitely implied at least a little bit at, the first time that they actually get together and he does it once and she's like, it was pretty good or whatever. And then they do it a second time and then they do it a third time all in one night. That scene is fantastic. It's hilarious.
That raised a really good question though. And when you go back in time, do your balls refill? Is it just dust?
Okay, let's move
Save
on
that for
to
overall.
voting.
Hold on, I have other things to say that are relevant.
We'll talk about ball draining in the overall category.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
All
Well,
right.
are we done with directing? I had a few things, but if we're out of time, I understand.
Yes, you're out of time.
That way Tom can join in. And
All right, Tom,
Yes.
voting.
Oh, we're voting. I'm going to have to go with About Time because Richard Curtis is easier to pronounce.
Andrew.
About Time.
Kyle.
Yeah, about time. It's about time for this podcast to end.
Gabe.
Yeah, about time.
Oh, shit.
About Time's U.S. release date is the same as director Richard Curtis's birthday, November 8th. And the boy playing young Tim at the end of the movie is Curtis's son. Steven Spielberg, Gus Van Sant, and David Fincher were all considered for directing The Time Traveler's Wife, but negotiations fell through.
Well, they couldn't find another DeLorean. So they were like, nah.
Yeah, good. All right. Fourth final round overall.
Yeah, overall, we've talked a lot about stuff. So any extra, side comments to allow Tom to participate, this is really where we do it. I felt that the story was much more meaningful and About Time. It's humorous and enjoyable to watch. I've seen it multiple times. The Time Traveler's Wife, I've seen a couple of times with it just being on. And the first time I watched it, because the first time I watched it, I was very confused. And I had to watch it a second time to really follow what was going on. And it just seemed not as everyone. I've heard that the reason I watched it the first time, people are saying, "Oh, it's this just amazing story, and there's so much chemistry, and it has such a good meaning to it, and all this." And then I watched it, and I'm like, I'm really confused at where people felt that, and I don't know if it was the timing or I don't know. It didn't feel as solid of a movie. It felt very fragmented. No pun intended to the movie, but it really did feel fragmented, even just in the story and the likability of the characters. Like they're just kind of people, and it's just kind of like, I don't know who I'm rooting for. Maybe I'm rooting for Ron Livingston. Maybe that's what the goal of the movie was. I don't know. But About Time, it was a solid thread all the way through. So if we want to, chime in or talk about other things that Mike tried to prevent us from talking about, let's open that sack up.
Oh. Is this the time to talk about about time travel and the time travel conundrums and that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Is this time for that now? And like what I was saying before, like in About Time, if they can travel back, one of the weird things is that they remember. Their memory doesn't change as they travel through time. So they remember an event and they can travel back, and they remember how it transpired the first time, and then that allows them to change it second time. And maybe a third time, as Andrew was alluding to earlier, So, but, their memory does not go back in time. They maintain their memory. And does he age doing that? If he goes back a day, is he a day older when he comes back? And if he were to do that 30 times, would he be a month older than he was the first time he experienced that event? And, obviously that's one of the odd conundrums of time travel.
The one that I felt, and I'm not, I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately, but the other one that I felt that they addressed a little bit was, of course, the butterfly effect, where if you change something that's already happened, it potentially changes the future. And, even when his dad tells him for the very, very first time, he says, we haven't crippled society yet. And then the second time they really address it is he goes back before his child is born and makes a change, and then comes back and he has a completely different child.
Which was my only problem with that movie, is that child didn't look like it could have been the offspring of those two individuals.
That was a dark-haired baby. It could have came from Rachel McAdams' genes.
Maybe. That was my only problem with it. I was like, what is this implying? I thought it implied something else, like it wasn't his kid. But then I realized that they intended it just to be a different one of his kids.
Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting way to address, and also, it's sort of the Superman complex. You make Superman so strong that he's completely indestructible and is all powerful. You throw one tiny thing in there, which is kryptonite, so that way there's at least a little bit of control over Superman. So they threw this spec of, you can time travel as much as you want, you can do whatever you want, but there's going to be one small restriction on this, and that is things like that could potentially alter your current predicament. And I thought it was at least an interesting way of handling it, because we can argue time travel for hours of what's right and wrong and who does it the best and stuff, because, suspension of disbelief type thing. But yeah, age, I don't know. They never really addressed that, did they?
No.
Because even the one scene where he goes back with his sister and takes her all the way back to the party, the New Year's party.
So that she wouldn't hook up with that dude.
Yeah, and it also makes me wonder, what does it do for her?
Right.
And how did he do that? Like, but again, you kind of let it go because it flows so well. Like, again, they just did such a good job with something and didn't make it gimmicky. And so it just felt, it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't, one of the nice things that you've kind of mentioned about time is that they didn't get too sciencey about the time travel thing. They didn't try to explain it too much. There were apparently a few rules, which we're talking about now. There are some kind of time travel rules. If you go back and change the one thing, it'll change something else. But, they didn't try to explain how or why they can do it or what happens, right, in the process. They didn't get too scienccy about it. And that's okay. And I think that's actually an advantage to telling the story.
His dad did a little bit.
Yeah, he explained that
a stumble and a little bit of a tumble.
Yeah. And it was in the family, and you had to go to a dark or quiet place and concentrate on the time you wanted to go back to. And so there were kind of some rules, but they didn't over explain it, and they just kind of, instead they focused on what you would do with that ability. Yeah. And how, it might be interesting to see something where, because he obviously chose to do, and I thought it was going to be his downfall at first. He chose to do good things and to do things for other people. Because if you had that ability, you could become really selfish about it. Well, and just make your life perfect.
But he talks about, you can
go back and fix every mistake you ever made.
But he also talks about that a little bit too. Because he's like, the first thing would be money. And he was like, no. Money will ruin you.
Yeah, I know a bunch of unhappy rich people.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he even did use it. Like, the conversation when he ran into Margot Robbie after the play, and he walks up and he's like, you said girlfriend. Some people could think that means you're gay. Oh, I am gay. I not that I have a problem with that. I don't.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back though.
Yeah.
And again, I use the same the when he meets the parents for the first time, and she's like, "We're living together," and he's like, "Do we have sex?" And she's like, "Yes, but no oral." And that's the first thing that comes out of his mouth. And then he's like, "I'm gonna be right back."
Yeah. And so I think it's interesting what his character chooses to do.
Yes.
And for whom? Because sometimes he does it for other people. He does it for his sister.
The playwright.
Yeah. He goes back and tries to help his, miserable playwright friend.
Someone eating a sandwich?
What?
It would be kind of interesting to see like maybe kind of a sequel where somebody goes back and doesn't do nice things with it, and how that turns out.
Yeah,
I would watch that movie.
He gave up.
I'm not so sure, Tom. I'm not sure.
He completely gave up love. His first meeting to help his playwright friend, who wasn't the nicest guy, but yeah. And
he didn't realize that's what he was doing, but yeah.
And then I guess I posed the philosophical questions. There it is. That this movie addresses that I'm not sure how I would feel about it, but he goes back to visit his dad after his dad is dead. And to me, that I think it would be much more difficult for closure and being able to allow that to happen, or to be able to do that constantly, because you would never be able to, you would never have to let go, in a sense. You would never have to deal with that until you get to a point where, in his case, the child is about ready to be born. If he goes back, he'll screw everything up. So I guess maybe that's something to ask to our listeners, but also just to you guys. Like, is that something that you would do? Is that weird? Would that be hard? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do with a power like that, right? That's pretty crazy and dangerous. It'd be hard. I always thought too, like, what if you go, say he went and then had his kid, and then 10 years later or 20 years later, he finds out, oh God, this kid is terrible. Like, this kid sucks. Would he want to go back and be like, I want to do this over again? I need a different kid.
Right.
Like cock block himself?
Different.
Yeah.
Well, no.
different
Right.
sperm.
Just change something to change the kid.
Just a different position, so that one of the different swimmers gets in there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I totally understand these movies.
It shows.
Yeah.
Tom.
No, I agree that it's almost a weird power that you would have to know that you could potentially change someone, in this case, your child's entire existence.
Yeah.
That's
You might
and
be
I
able to
mean,
make
he
a good
definitely
horror
chooses
movie out
not
of
to
that.
do that. But what'd you say, Mike?
You could probably make a good horror movie around that premise, right?
Oh, you sure could. Yeah, and I thought it was interesting.
Excuse me.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
I'm sorry. I thought it was also interesting that he let his sister in on the secret, but he never let her in on the secret. He never let Mary in on it.
Well, you couldn't, could you?
I don't know.
Because then she'd always wonder.
Well, sure. It's sort of like the dad, though. I mean, like, he can do it. I don't know. Overall.
Okay, you guys done?
I was hoping to talk about music, but we're good.
Well, let's do music.
I thought their choice
would love
of
to
I
hear
thought
your
their
thoughts.
I thought their choice of Nick Cave and the Seeds in About Time was a good choice. I like Nick Cave. Their song choices were a little bit more pop driven, so you can kind of tell that the movie was a little bit more, lighter. Whereas Time Traveler's Wife didn't really kind of lean too much on popular music. I mean,
You're right.
with About Time, you got Ben Folds, The Cure, Amy Winehouse. Those are choices that you make that when you want to get a certain message across. And I love all those artists. So, I mean, that's just from my heart.
Okay. I'm glad, Tom. I'm glad. Let's put it to,
I'm killing it.
put it to a vote, Andrew.
About Time.
All right. Kyle.
Yeah, it's about time.
Gabe.
About Time.
And Tom.
Boy, I know this is going to wind up splitting my vote 2-2, negating any possibility of influencing the outcome of this match, but I'm going to have to go with the Time Traveler's Wife just because I just can't decide.
Fair enough. Thank you. I only have one piece of trivia for overall. These are 2 of 4 movies in which Rachel McAdams stars as the love interest of a time traveler.
Dude, if you ruin my recommendation, the only legitimate thing I bring to the table this week.
The other 2 are Midnight in Paris, in which she played the fiance of Owen Wilson's character, and Doctor Strange, girlfriend of the title character. In none of the films does her character travel through time in any way.
You know what else is interesting? She gets proposed to in her sleep in both of these movies.
It was
Yes.
a thing.
Yeah.
People tried to do the thing.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like, what's the likelihood of that?
All right.
Did she go, I've seen this somewhere before.
Let's move on to recommendations for this month. We'll start with Tom.
Oh, the movie that I would like to recommend was nominated for, actually it won Best Screenplay in 2012, Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris. It's wonderful. It's adorable. It has Tom Hiddleston and see, I really had this all worked out, and you fucked it up when you said that. Your trivia ruined my thing. But it's really good. It's a really good time traveling movie about Owen Wilson. He's a writer that goes back to 1920s Paris, and he runs into Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald and Picasso and Ernest Hemingway and this crazy band. And then he falls in love with a woman there, and he's kind of torn between two times. And definitely the better of Rachel McAdams' time travelers movies, if you don't count Doctor Strange. But I really do love Midnight in Paris. It's one of my favorites. So I'll save my other recommendation for next month.
All right, Kyle.
I don't know. I don't want to be here anymore. Let me see. I know I've watched some stuff recently. What was good? Oh, I just watched this movie the other night that I actually really enjoyed. It is a time travel love movie, and it stars Rachel McAdams and Domhnall Gleeson, and it is called About Time. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see it yet, but it's really good. I
haven't. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I was really worried. I'll be glad to. I was really worried they were going to turn it into a weird, creepy, backwards sex pedophile movie, but they never did. So for that, I give it a lot of credit because I have heard other movies have made that mistake before.
How's the soundtrack on that? How's the soundtrack on that one, Kyle?
Oh, Nick Cave's in it, and there's some other. Oh, I know he's like your favorite. You always tell me.
I love Nick Cave.
Nick
Cave. Bad Seeds.
God, all the time with this guy. But yeah, that's pretty damn good. If you don't have time to watch that, I guess you could watch the David Fincher film Seven. I watched that not too long ago, and it's really, really good. It's got a lot of similarities to Time Traveler's Life, where it's about a crazy, psychotic pervert who does awful things to people and basically makes them his slave, has control over them. But yeah, check out Seven. It's a real enjoyable movie. Don't watch it after you eat spaghetti.
Who's the spoiler alert? Who's the psychotic pervert in that one? Seven.
Eric Bana.
Is he?
It's so weird. I know. I thought it was Kevin
Seven.
Spacey, but when I watched it again, it was Eric Bana.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch
Munich.
Time
Traveler.
I think I completely missed the point of Munich. I'll have to go back and watch that again.
That Kevin Spacey film?
Yeah, Munich.
Right. No, that's Eric Bana now.
It is. Okay.
Oh
all
my
right.
God. Yeah. I know things are getting weird, Tom.
It's all blending together.
Andrew.
Andrew would like to recommend the new Apple Plus show. Go ahead.
What are we doing? Recommendations? Okay, I guess I would like to do a other time travel movie that is from my childhood that I thought was amazing, and that is Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, yes.
So I love that movie as a kid, and I still think it's great, and it's funny and humorous, and I still quote lines from it. I'm sure somebody's probably recommended it before, so I apologize for that. But
I think that was
God,
me.
it's a really good. Oh, was it you?
I think I have.
Hold on. I can tell you.
I'm sorry.
Paul Rubens is really good in that.
No, sir. It was me, but Mike told me about it, which reminded me to recommend.
There you go.
All
right.
Well,
Yes,
I apologize. I didn't mean to duplicate one, but I really love that movie. So
it is.
Sarah
okay.
Jessica McAdams is really good in that.
She is. And I thought
And
Eric
that
Bana
must
in his
be-
first role as the kid was great.
and
Wait,
that
I
must
thought he
be
was the spaceship.
Big Al. Whoa! Too many Twinkies.
Gabe.
I'm not quite sure where to go with this. I have two suggestions. One has been suggested already before by someone else, which I found out today. And then the other one we actually did as an episode. So I'm not quite sure what to do with that. So I think I'm going to go this time around. I'm going to recommend another time travel love story. It doesn't maybe seem like a love story on the surface, but it really is what it's all about, and that's 12 Monkeys. We did do an episode on it before, but I think it's a really well done movie and an interesting concept in time travel. And again, I think it's kind of a time travel romance. So if you've never seen 12 Monkeys, check it out.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, my other one was Safety Not Guaranteed, which I also found to be very, very charming. But apparently someone has already recommended that to you.
Andrew recommended that, didn't you, in last,
I did.
Yeah,
3 or 4 months back. Good. It's a good movie.
Speaking of recommendations.
Yeah, that one's interesting because of the low budget.
Yeah.
It's a low budgeter, but it's really well done.
Speaking of recommendations, Gabe, I actually watched The Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, yeah. Oh. You know what? That's fantastic.
It is.
It turned out to be great, and I'm looking forward to another season of it.
Yep.
I went to the doctor for a checkup the other day, and she's like, I started this really great show, and I got on the treadmill and I binged it. And I was like, oh, really? What was it? She's like, oh, what was this thing? It was this thing about murders in the building or something. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a Steve Martin thing with the Only Murders in the Building. And she like watched the whole thing like while she was on the treadmill, apparently.
Wow.
I don't
how many episodes?
Or at least started it there. I can't imagine you spent 10 hours on a treadmill.
I was gonna say that's quite the treadmill.
That's a marathon.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Who knows? Anyway.
All right. Well, my recommendation is directed by Tony Scott. Stars Gabe's favorite actor, Denzel Washington, has Paula Patton and Jim Val Kilmer.
Jesus.
Adam
Just
Goldberg.
say Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Just say Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah.
And that is Deja Vu from 2006. I remember.
Is this a real movie?
Yes.
It sounds fake.
Nope.
It is real.
Yeah.
It sounds made up. You
Yeah,
pronounced Ridley Scott wrong, too.
Tell us about it, Mike.
You know what? I'm just done.
This actually
Come on.
After
I want to know about Deja Vu. I think I've heard this before, but tell us.
I think I heard of this movie.
After a ferry is bombed in New Orleans, an ATF agent joins a unique investigation using experimental surveillance technology to find the bomber, but soon finds himself becoming obsessed with one of the victims. So it kind of turns into a little love story, if you will. All right, let's. I'm just over this.
Another movie.
Can I throw out like an unrelated recommendation?
Well, sure, why not?
I think I've earned it.
Sure, why not, Tom?
Mike, don't start sticking to the fucking rules now.
Yeah.
The after party on Apple Plus is really great. So it's a murder mystery at a Hollywood mansion, and then every person that comes in with their testimony is a different film genre. So there's the romantic comedy guy, there's the action car chase guy, and all the films are, even the ratio and the cameras they used and lighting and everything, it ties to the genre. So if you're a film fan, it's really fun.
I am a film fan.
It borrows a lot of tropes. It's hilarious, and it's unrelated to anything we did this week, which is kind of what I'm doing.
Flan? Did you say Flan? Film Flan?
Yeah, he did say film Flan.
I like Flan.
I like Flan too. I'm a film Flan.
Good. Yeah.
All right, let's poke the monkey, find out what we're talking about.
Or is that a TV show, Tom?
Yeah, it's a TV.
We'll
Apple
just keep
Plus,
talking.
the after party.
Okay.
I'm going to travel
really
back in time and slap myself for thinking of this idea.
You're going to go back in time and not invite me to be a host on the show. That's probably your best bet.
If I just go back like 5 hours, I could get these done.
Hey guys, I'll be right back.
I can't tell if he went
real.
Did he go back in time?
I don't know.
Yeah, did we start over?
Oh, nope, he just pooped himself. All right, let's poke the monkey, find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is About Time!
It is about time.
Yeah. Well, I can sleep soundly tonight knowing that I helped us get off to a great start on what probably is the most unhinged couple hours I've experienced in a long time.
I will.
Kyle, we should hang out more.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm not getting out enough.
Oh my gosh, my cheeks are hurting. I've been laughing so hard.
I'm sorry.
I love that you think it's your fault, Paul.
No.
What the fuck, Tom?
It's like 60% my fault. So.
Oh my god.
Does anyone find it appropriate that we're doing this on Groundhog Day?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Recording this on Groundhog Day.
For the fourth time.
Yeah. God, it feels like it.
We're going to do this for the next 40 years or something.
I think
the same episode for 40 years.
I think this one is better than our first one.
Yeah. I think.
Oh God! If this is the good one, oh no!
The first time.
What happened?
It wasn't very good. So
no,
we've gotten better, guys.
I promise I'll get them watched before the next one.
We would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. Pop quiz, hotshots. What two 90s action classics will be facing off in the ring in March? It's Speed versus Face Off.
You should have let Tom answer. He knows.
I've seen those recently, like in the last 48 hours.
For Gabe, Tom,
We're
Kyle.
watching 48 Hours?
No, don't watch 48 Hours.
Oh, shit.
Let's see if we can do even worse next month.
Yes, now begins the spiral, our downward spiral. When people look back, they'll say, that's when it went wrong.
That's when it all went to shit. For Gabe, Tom, Kyle, Andrew, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Is it possible I'm at the hospital, that I've had a stroke, and I just don't know it yet? That somehow I'm on an operating table somewhere?
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.